together, all of them, and say, two strong nations, two proud nations, not depart to other schedule.
Well, thank you all very much for coming along this morning to share in this prayer breakfast. And Prime Minister, can I thank you very much for the arrangements that have been made today. And again, can I thank you and Mrs. Bainimarama for the incredibly warm and Christian welcome you've given to Jenny and I and our entire delegation. Can I acknowledge the other ministers who are here as well, our church leaders. Can I particularly also acknowledge the Assistant Minister for International Development in the Pacific, Anne Ruston, Senator Anne Ruston, who was here joining me as part of our delegation here today. I've learned a number of things that I'm going to take back to Australia with me. First of all, in Australia on a Friday, it's often called a casual Friday. People wear not their suits on a Friday, and it's going to be Pacific Friday now in my office. We'll come along and we'll wear our Zulus, and maybe you'll catch on. There'll be kava ceremonies before every cabinet meeting to make sure they're calm. But the lasting memories I truly have of Fiji, just not on this visit but over a lifetime, is that this is a nation of great faith. It is a peoples from many islands who share a deep and committed faith, and this has informed and blessed Fiji, there's no doubt, over many, many, many years, and will continue to in the future. And in that sense, I particularly want to thank all the church leaders who are here today and are joining here with us. In Psalm 52, 8 and 9 it says, "But I am like an olive tree, flourishing in the house of God. I trust in God's unfailing love forever and ever. For what you have done, I will always praise you in the presence of your faithful people, and I will hope in your name, for your name is good." What I've always loved about the faith of Fijians is it's always so full of praise and worship. And I want to thank particularly the choir this morning for the beautiful singing, which brings back so many wonderful memories for Jenny and I, and is quite moving. You seem to have picked all my favourites this morning, and my father's for that matter, and I'll be happy to recount them back to him. But it is the sense of praise. Many years ago, there's a very special guest here this morning, Lute Powell, is sitting over there. Jenny and I stayed with her 30 years ago here in Lamy, in Suva, and when we spent time with the Christian Brethren Assemblies here, not just here in Suva, but up in Lautoka, over in Savu and in Nandi, and it was a very incredible time, and down in Pacific Harbour as well, where we caught up with others. And the singing was something that lasts with you forever. In fact, the first time I remember hearing How Great Thou Art sung in a Fijian church, which was actually up in Lautoka, was something quite special, and it was just as special this morning, and I thank you. On that occasion they had a guitar and a ukulele as well, but it was absolutely beautiful. But it is that sense of worship, it is that sense of praise that lifts, I think, the heart of peoples and enables, through all trials and all distresses, for people through faith to have hope and to be positive and to always look forward, to have a spirit of forgiveness that enables people to always move on from whatever may or may not have happened, to deal with life's disappointments, but importantly to deal with life's successes as well. Sometimes we're as vulnerable in success as we are in defeat. And faith has always brought, I think, a humility, and that has always, I think, been on display here as I've seen the express faith of the Fijian peoples, not just here in Fiji, but in the diaspora Fijian community in Australia as well. It's often a taboo subject in Australia to talk about religion when you're a politician. And I don't make a great habit of it, but it's important that our people know, as leaders, who we are, what we believe in, and what we're about. Faith has always been a very important part of mine and Jenny's life, and it is in our family. It is from, in our case at least, and I'm sure you would agree in this room, that the whole notions of family, the whole notions of love and the whole notions of support and care for each other are a product of our faith, and that is what informs us. But that is not for me to be preachy about it. It's just to express the great motivation that comes from our faith and why faith and religion in communities is so incredibly important. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, for us as leaders, when we talk about our faith and we talk about religion, not to ask if God is on our side, but to pray earnestly that we are on his. And I think that's very true, because that brings a humility also to our faith and our walk in public life. So as I go on my journey, which is thankfully and happily meant on many occasions I've been able to share with Christians here in Fiji, but just not here, in many other places around the world. I've been in Myanmar, where I've stood in services there with fellow Christians who have gone through very difficult times. I've done the same in Malaysia. I've done the same through many parts of the world. And wherever they've been, there's always this great sense of hope. There's always a great sense of positivity. There's a great sense of family. There's a great sense of fellowship and togetherness that is nowhere more than on display here in Fiji every time I come. So I very much want to thank you for the great privilege of having this prayer breakfast this morning. There is a prayer breakfast that is held in Australia each year, which brings people from all around the country. There is an incredible prayer breakfast that's held every year in Washington. In fact, it was President Eisenhower who started that tradition. And it goes on to this day. Every single president turns up every single year and presents to that prayer breakfast. And people come from all around the world, including here in Fiji, where I've met Fijians at that prayer breakfast, and as they've come from all around the world. In fact, when we go to the prayer breakfast in Washington, there's a bit of a Pacific posse. We all get together before, the Fijians, the New Zealanders, the Australians, and others from around the islands. And ours is always the best party when we go, I think. And it's also got the best singing, but it's not the Australians, I can tell you. It's the Pacific Islanders who lead that. But I think that shows that so long as there are people around the world who are walking in public life and have a sense of who they are and what they're about and what they believe, then we can have great hope for the future. And so with that, the only thing I would really like to do on behalf of Jenny and I is to offer a prayer for Fiji, and it comes from Psalm 90 and verse 17. And if we may the favour of the Lord our God rest on us, establish the work of our hands for us, yes, establish the work of our hands. The last 24 hours or so, the Prime Minister and I have had some wonderful discussions, and they build on discussions we've had in Australia as well. This prayer breakfast this morning, I think, is just another indication of the depth of the relationship and the depth of shared values that exist between not only the Prime Minister and I, but I think between our two peoples and our countries. And I think when you sow something in prayer, it always reaps great results. So as we go into this next phase of our relationship, to sow that in prayer, I think is very important. And so very happy to do that. And may the Lord bless our nations. May the Lord bless all of you and your families. And may the Lord bring peace to a world at the moment which is always facing troubled times. But we must remember it is He that overcame the world.